It was England in 1943, and it was the height of World War II. 4 young boys set off into the woods to go hunting for bird eggs. Little did they know, though, that what they would find stuffed into a large wych elm tree would not only terrify them, but it would be the start of a mystery that experts have been trying to solve and figure out for the past 80 years. Hi folks, I'm Johnny and welcome to the Oddest. This one is kinda creepy. So the 4 wee boys stumble onto a human skull. That in of itself is creepy, but what was even more terrifying was the way in which they found it, stuffed into a tree. There are a fair few elements in this story that are just as creepy. So let's dive into the mystery of Bella in the Wych Elm. It was back in April 1943 when Britain was right in the middle of World War II. The country was going through frequent air raids, happening almost every night, and dealing with strict food rationing. During those challenging times, a group of boys sneaked onto the Hagley estate in Worcestershire. Their mission was to hunt birds and raid their nests in the hopes of bringing some food back to their tables. However, fate had something unexpected in store for them. As Bob Farmer climbed up the eerie branches of an old elm tree, he had a shocking realisation. What he had initially mistaken for a large egg turned out to be a human skull. Years later, when asked about that day, Bob vividly recalled that there was a small patch of decaying flesh on the forehead of the skull, and some long tangled hair was actually still attached to it. The 2 front teeth were also noticeably crooked. Terrified by this eerie discovery, the boys were filled with fear, worried about the consequences that they might face for trespassing and then stumbling upon a potential murder scene. So they made a secret pact amongst themselves, a solemn vow of silence to keep their secret hidden. However, it didn't take long for the youngest boy to struggle with the weight of the secret. He eventually confided in his father about their unsettling discovery in the depth of Hagley Woods. Soon afterwards, the police were called to the scene, and their investigation led them to a surprising find. A woman's skeletal remains concealed within the hollow of a massive tree trunk. With little evidence to work with, apart from a few shreds of the woman's clothing and a counterfeit gold wedding ring, the authorities faced a perplexing mystery. But things took an even stranger turn when a cryptic message suddenly appeared one night, hastily scrawled on a wall in Birmingham. The message read, "Who put Bella in the Wych Elm?" This case has gone down in history as one of Britain's most puzzling unsolved mysteries. Even today, from time to time, similar messages mysteriously emerge across Birmingham, keeping this legend alive. Amongst the locals, there are varying beliefs about the nature of this crime. Some suggest that the killing was of a ritualistic nature, possibly linked to witchcraft. On the other hand, there are those who firmly believe that the woman was a German spy, meeting a tragic fate when her mission behind enemy lines took a sinister turn. The range of theories surrounding this strange incident is as extraordinary as the enduring local legend itself. Even after 80 years since her unsettling discovery in Hagley Wood, the central question lingers persistently. Who was this mysterious figure known as Bella, and who was responsible for her untimely demise? The forensic biologist who examined the woman's remains back in 1943, well, they carried the weight of this perplexing mystery with him until the end of his days. In 2014, when Dr. John Lund reached the remarkable age of 101, he agreed to share his insights during an interview with the BBC, reflecting on the limited evidence that were left behind by the perpetrator. He had basically said that due to the location of the tree, it being on private property, it was the ideal location to cover up such an insidious crime. The authorities concluded that the woman found had died around 18 months prior to her being discovered. This was also based on the condition of her body. Dr. Lund, who studied her remains with his colleagues, estimated that the woman was around 35 years old at the time of her death. She had slightly overlapping front teeth and may have had a child at some point in her life, although they weren't certain on this. They also believed that she had been placed in the tree soon after she died, because it would have been difficult to get her into that position inside the trunk once rigor mortis had set in. There was a piece of peach-coloured cloth from her skirt found inside her mouth, which suggested that she may have been suffocated. This led some to believe that she was murdered, but there is some debate about this theory. The woman's body was discovered by 4 boys who said that they put a stick wrapped in cloth into her mouth when they replaced the skull back into the tree. Despite having distinctive teeth, the police were never really able to identify the victim. During the war, resources were scarce, and the forensic techniques used by officers were not very advanced. Although the authorities compared the description of the victim's body with thousands of missing persons cases in the area, they couldn't find a match. Unfortunately, a DNA test, which could have provided a definitive answer to this mystery, is no longer possible, as stated by Dr. Lund in his interview. The West Midlands Police have recently confirmed that they no longer possess the woman's body. In 2018, a spokesperson for the police informed a local newspaper that they were unable to find any relevant documentation pertaining to this case in either of the West Midlands police museums. Despite the peculiar circumstances surrounding Bella's death, the incident soon faded from the minds of Hagley's residents, who were primarily occupied with World War II. However, it seems that someone was determined not to let her memory fade away entirely. 6 months after the discovery of the woman's body, a message asking who was responsible for placing Bella in the Wych Elm was found on an abandoned building near Hagley Hall. The eerie chalk writings became the authorities' first potential clue regarding this woman's identity. It was revealed that her name was Bella. Speculations arose about whether the mysterious letters were penned by the murderer or a former lover. However, just like many other aspects of the investigation, the name Bella turned out to be a dead end, and the case then went cold. A decade had passed, and then a local journalist named Wilfred Byford Jones, writing under the pseudonym Quester, published a series of sensational articles about this woodland tragedy. The renewed attention seemed to have an impact when a new lead emerged. Soon after, a woman identifying herself as Anna sent a letter to the local newspaper in Wolverhampton. It was called the Wolverhampton Express and Star. In her letter, she hinted that the person who holds the answer is now beyond reach of earthly justice. Anna went on to provide some cryptic clues, mentioning that the individual responsible for this crime had died back in 1942, plagued by insanity. She also revealed that the victim was of Dutch nationality and had arrived in England illegally around 1941. However, Anna expressed her reluctance to disclose any further information. The newspaper then forwarded Anna's letter to the local authorities, who urged her to come forward and discuss the case. Wilfred Byford Jones, the journalist, claimed that he was bound by secrecy regarding the subsequent meeting that took place between himself and the police and Anna. However, 5 years later, Byford Jones wrote an account of what transpired on a rainy night at the Dick Whittington Inn in Kinver. The article featured intriguing elements such as trapeze artists, spies, munitions and aircraft factories, along with a thrilling pursuit of Anna amidst a crowd of girls at the inn. However, the accuracy of these accounts remains uncertain. Nevertheless, the authorities did obtain a statement from a woman named Una Hainsworth, whose narrative shared striking similarities to the journalist's story. Hainsworth informed the police that she was the Anna mentioned in the newspaper articles. She recounted an incident when her husband, Jack Mossop, returned home one night visibly disturbed and pale. He mentioned being at the Littleton Arms with a person that he referred to as Van Ralt and a Dutch piece. Presumably this was referring to Bella, who had passed out in the car during their journey back from the pub. According to the story, Van Ralt instructed Hainsworth's husband to take a drive into the woods, where they placed the woman inside the hollow of a tree, hoping that she would regain consciousness the following morning. That sounds dodgy. However, Bella never woke up, and the sight of the woman in the Wych Elm haunted Hainsworth's husband, driving him into madness. He passed away in a mental hospital in 1942, a year prior to the discovery of Bella's body. A man named Peter Douglas Osborne, who used to serve as a councillor in Birmingham, has been closely following the Hagley Wood case since the 1970s. His interest in this story began when his late father, Squadron Leader William Douglas Osborne, who was responsible for guarding the murder scene when the remains were initially discovered, well, he shared the story with him. Peter recalls his father taking him to the site and pointing out a large tree trunk with a hollow in the middle, telling him that that's where the spy's body was found. He found it thrilling as a young kid, but his father later became tight-lipped about it. The notion that the woman could have been a spy adds another intriguing twist to this case. According to this theory, Bella might have been associated with a German spy network operating in Birmingham. It involved a somewhat vague mission of espionage across the country. During that period, there were several munitions factories scattered across the Midlands, and information about these locations could have been valuable to England's enemies. What might have initially been a local rumour gained significance through Byford Jones' account of his meeting with Anna back in 1953 in that pub. The journalist asserted that Anna disclosed to them that the woman was part of a group of individuals sympathetic to Germany. Allegedly, her husband was involved in a plot to gather intelligence about weaponry and aircraft munitions in the West Midlands. Years later, this mystery took a deeper turn when MI5, the UK spy agency, released wartime files concerning an enemy agent named Joseph Jacobs. Jacobs had parachuted into Cambridgeshire in 1941, which just added more intrigue to this story. Joseph Jacobs was discovered by farm workers while walking in a field close by, and they promptly turned him over to the police. When Jacobs was searched, a photograph of a young woman was found in his pocket. Later, this woman was identified as Clara Boerl, a singer and actress. The connection between Clara and the woman found in the woods remains unclear. There are claims suggesting that Clara was working as a spy and potentially parachuted into Hagley during the war, leading to her ending up in this hollow tree. However, this theory has been debunked as no parachute was ever found at the crime scene, which completely disproves this. Mr. Osborne is among those who believe that the discovery of the woman's body is intertwined with a complex network of spies and intrigue. However, he acknowledges that the case remains open to interpretation. According to him, the intelligence gathering services at that time, on both sides, well, they weren't particularly efficient. Agents were often sent in various directions, and whether they succeeded or failed, it seemed there was little expertise involved in collecting information. The process appeared almost amateurish. Author James Haywood also mentioned that there was at least one spy operating in the Birmingham area during World War II, but that spy was promptly captured. He finds it plausible that the region would attract the attention of spies. However, there's no evidence linking this woman found in the tree to any form of espionage, and disposing of a dead spy in such a manner, well, it seems quite peculiar. This was according to Haywood in his interview with the BBC. Alongside the more conventional theories, supernatural explanations have also added intrigue to this case. According to reports, the body was said to have been discovered in a wych elm, although Mr. Osborne contends that she was found in a different type of tree. In old wives' tales, wych elms were believed to have protective properties against evil. The name belladonna, associated with the deadly nightshade plant, has been linked to witchcraft since medieval times. There has been speculation regarding the scattered bones found near the woman's body, with the police suggesting that they were there as a result of wild animal activity. The discovery of Bella's hand, which some accounts claim was severed, although there is disagreement on this point, convinced esteemed archaeologist and anthropologist Margaret Murray that this case bore the hallmarks of witchcraft. Reportedly, Murray travelled to the Midlands in the 1950s to investigate another crime, which was suspected to have occult origins. This was the murder of farmer Charles Walton, who was brutally stabbed and then pinned to the ground with a pitchfork before becoming aware of the Hagley Wood case. So basically she was there to investigate the murder of Walton, and then became aware of Bella and the wych elm and started to look into that. In his book titled The Case That Foiled Fabian, Murder and Witchcraft in Rural England, Simon Reed recalls a conversation between Professor Murray and a local reporter in which she summarised her theory. Professor Murray is quoted as saying, "The act of placing a body inside a tree's hollow is connected to witchcraft. Tree worship has ancient roots and is associated with sacrifice." The theory surrounding the occult gained popularity and continues to intrigue people to this day. However, Reed believes it detracts from the real tragedy of this crime. According to Reed, the most plausible explanation is that Bella met her tragic end at the hands of a cruel killer who had no knowledge or involvement in witchcraft or black magic. One of the reasons why the Hagley Woods mystery has captured the public's imagination for so long is the sporadic appearance of graffiti across the Midlands, asking the haunting question: who put Bella in the Wych Elm? The police believed that the initial graffiti messages were written by the same individual, but their identity remains unknown. Was it the person responsible for Bella's murder? Was it an ex-lover? Or perhaps a mischievous local youngster just playing a prank? According to an article that was published in the newspaper in 1944, the writing was positioned far too high on a wall to have been done by children. The police speculated that it might have been the work of someone coming into the city early in the morning with farm produce making deliveries. Why, was there no ladders back in the 1940s in England? Pretty sure there was. Subsequent outbreaks of graffiti are likely the result of people just imitating the original messages. In 2018 there was hope that the mystery would finally be solved when an expert skilled in facial reconstruction recreated Bella's appearance, providing a face to the name. The photograph was published in the hope that it could trigger memories among a collection of forgotten photographs and buried memories, maybe in someone's attic. Unfortunately, no one came forward, and in 2005, the case was officially classified as unsolved. The search for Bella, and who's behind her death, continues to this day. That's it for this video, folks. Thank you all ever so much for watching. Stay safe out there, tell someone you love them, and always remember, keep smiling.